A quick note that this webinar is being recorded, so should you require a copy of the recording, please reach out to your favorite account manager. Great. So just an introduction to our team on the call today. We have Tristan Govender, our very own senior sales engineer, who technically supports and structures commercials from all CRS solutions. Alongside that, he works with resellers to ensure all resources are always available. We then have myself, Shannon Naika, the product manager here at CRS. I liaise and assist resellers with ensuring all end user requirements and expectations are met. I have years of experience within the technical space, holding various certifications, and customer service always top of mind. Okay, so today we will be focusing on ReaQta and all technical aspects of ReaQta. The next 3 technical webinars, or 2 webinars, would be focused on ReaQta. We will then move on to Beachhead Secure and EC Console Aware. So as you are registered for today's webinar, you will automatically be registered for the upcoming webinars and you'll receive a confirmation email. So as a brief introduction into CRS and why you're listening to me today, CRS is a cybersecurity distributor and an authorized IBM training center. Our head office is based in Centurion, and we have training centers in Centurion, Midrand, and Cape Town. We operate through the SADC region and English-speaking Africa with regards to IBM training. Our training will all allow your organization to internalize industry experts and ensure that your organization always has the right people working on your network. We are also able to assist our partners with the installation and configuration of IBM hardware and software if needed. And with over 15 years of training experience, we are your partners in virtue, retaliating the bad guy. Having said this, we also distribute world-class cybersecurity solutions, and that's to ensure that your network is both secure and automated. Moving on to our CRS Solution Range, I will be giving you a brief overview of ReaQta, Beachhead Secure, and EC Console Aware. Beachhead Secure is a proven cloud platform, and that's to enforce encryption and access control on employee-use devices. We have ReaQta, which is an MDR, EDR, and XDR solution that consists of a next-generation endpoint threat detection system that's powered by artificial intelligence. We have EC Console Aware, which is a phishing simulation tool, and that's to safeguard your workplace from phishing attacks by showing your employees how to identify even the most complex phishing scams out there. Having said this, CRS also provides pen testing, web app scans, and vulnerability tests. So if you would need to outsource that, or if you have a client that needs these requirements, please feel free to reach out to us for more information, and we'll be glad to have assistance. With this being said, I will begin with a brief overview of ReaQta, which will be followed by a technical session by one of our speakers, Tristan Govender. So with ReaQta is an EDR and MDR solution, and it has been favored more in Europe, having originated in the Netherlands, but it has substantial growth in South Africa and holds a very competitive standpoint with other solutions. And out of recognition for its power behind the solution, it's recently been acquired by IBM and will develop into the IBM Curator stack. IBM Curator XDR is a suite of security software, and that's built on IBM's open cloud-native security platform, and that's CloudPack for Security. Now, IBM Curator XDR spans the core foundational capabilities of threat detection, investigation, and response, and that's to help organizations modernize existing IT and security infrastructure. So ReaQta will form part of this XDR Connect portfolio. Now, with regards to EDR, MDR, and XDR, everyone knows what an antivirus is, but what we generally don't understand is that an antivirus is very limited and what it's able to protect us against in the current world of attacks. Now, the next step in the development of endpoint security is EDR, MDR, and XDR. These types of solutions make use of AI, or artificial intelligence, to handle threats and IOCs, your indicators of compromise, and that's proactively, even if they've not been seen before. The tool sets that endpoint detection and response bring into the market are essential to all organizations today. And ReaQta definitely stands out above the rest in terms of its detection capabilities and response. So as mentioned, the scope of a traditional antivirus is simplistic and it's limited. It runs checks against a known database of signature-based threats. It alerts the user or the admin, and it offers a way to remediate the threat. Now, this has worked well in the past, but due to the advancement of technology, there has been a growth in the way hackers work and design their malware to work. So this is why your traditional antivirus is not good enough for most organizations anymore. It is included into some EDR solutions, but it's often seen as a redundancy. As you can see, EDR serves for a much broader spectrum and contains tools such as whitelisting tools, monitoring tools, proactive threat hunting, and others as well to provide comprehensive protection, and that's against cyber attacks. And this is where most of your EDR solutions compete. The tool sets that they are able to offer is what gives a difference in opinion when it comes to EDR and MDR. So moving on to MDR. Now, ReaQta MDR is a round-the-clock managed detection and response service, and that augments your security team with expert defenders for complete threat eradication. So with ReaQta's MDR service, organizations can actually focus on their core business while entrusting end-to-end threat resolution and detection and incident response to a trained team. So as an MDR solution, it is very cost effective, and it's also very easily deployed within a 3-day period with no need for additional security. So the features of ReaQta MDR is 24/7 active threat response. So 24/7 round-the-clock threat monitoring, and that ensures that all detections, low, medium, and high severity, are addressed as it happens. We then have efficient processes and workflows. So you have your clear incident management workflows, and that eliminates any delays in threat investigation. We have playbooks that are constantly tuned and aligned to customer requirements. We have ReaQta's SOC, or Service Operations Center, and analysts deliver on-demand threat hunting requests and actions. We also are able, ReaQta MDR, there are also detailed incident reports that contain relevant threat information, and that's actionable insights and recommendations to tighten current security posture. We then have your lowered overall security costs. And in that sense, it would be reallocating of time and resources from security management to other daily operations and important projects that are needed within the organization. We also have the trusted security professional part of it. And that's a ReaQta's team, which comes from a military, governmental intelligence and analysis background. So that's to help you identify and track even the most sophisticated threats and run advanced threat counting campaigns. So the solution is very scalable according to the parameters that you need, and it would be a very seamless experience regardless of the number of endpoints that your end client or organization may have. So moving on to the different tiers with regards to ReaQta, you have Eon, which is basically your next-gen antivirus. Now, this is a cloud-based solution. We then have Pro, which is a cloud-based or an on-premises solution. We have Enterprise, which is a cloud-based or an on-prem solution. And then we have ReaQta MDR, now which is a cloud-based solution. And that ensures round-the-clock threat monitoring with real-time incident remediation, and that's by ReaQta's security response team. So with this being said, I will now hand over to Tristan Cavendale, who will take you through the technical aspects of ReaQta. Over to you, Tristan.
Thanks, Shannon. Really appreciate it. And thanks everyone for joining. Really appreciate your time. For a lot of you that already know me, it's great to chat to you again. Like Shannon said, if you have any questions with regards to the session, please feel free to use the Q&A section. We'll answer any questions after. Okay. So let's just kick off with some gentle stats to get us into the mood for ReaQta. So I'm sure that you're all well aware of the risks of the big bad world out there, the world of terrorism and ransomware. So I'll make this a brief message of statistics and I won't go into too much depth about it. Okay, so malware isn't going anywhere. We understand this, and it's something that we see in South Africa with the toll that it's taking into plunging organizations into the depths of financial debt and foreclosures. And this is where we come in by us, I mean you, the MSSPs and the resellers. Do you answer the problem to that very large issue that these companies are having? And ReaQta is definitely a very strong answer to this problem. And I know that a lot of you wouldn't be sitting here if you do not believe that as well. So let's get into it by starting off with the reactive philosophy. Um, all malware is pretty much the same. That's a reactive philosophy. So from credential harvesting to the big bad ugly ransomware, they all have the same or similar intentions: to steal, to break, to cause panic. So it's the way that it performs these intentions that makes it different. So they make it completely different, or not completely different, but they make it in different ways to bypass systems. But in reality, it's all has similar intentions. So because of this very simple yet effective outlook, ReaQta's detection and response capabilities are so highly esteemed. They're looking for those in the indicators of what the intention are, and then they go look at how it's performing those intentions. And that's just something that we'll get into a bit of depth in these sessions. So from this week, next week, and the following week, the next three sessions will be focused on ReaQta and how ReaQta goes about its detection and response capabilities. Okay, so just looking at your screen, like I mentioned, when we look at statistics, we understand that ransomware is not going anywhere. By a study done by an esteemed vendor as well, we see that the average cost of remediating ransomware in 2021 was 6.4 million. And we understand that, you know, when it comes to organizations, that's enough to put a lot of the smaller guys out of business and severely damage some of the bigger guys and medium guys. Okay, so that's exactly why we need to go in and protect them. Another statistic that we look at is the 65% of data that was recovered from the 54% that was of successful ransomware attacks. So, you know, these guys are not getting their data back. They're not getting the data that they require back from these attacks. And that's an issue because they're paying out millions to get their data back, and they're not able to recover that. Okay, that's crippling for companies out there. That's exactly where ReaQta steps in. So just during these sessions, I'm going to go into a bit of depth about ReaQta, its infrastructure, its detection capabilities, and in the following sessions, we'll look at responding to alerts and etc. Okay. So just starting it off, let's kick off with the architecture of ReaQta. So we see that it has an endpoint agent, it has a server, which can sit on your cloud, ReaQta's cloud, or your client's cloud, and we have the dashboard. Okay, so the three components work together to detect malicious behavior by tracking all of the activities on the endpoints and learn behavior of the endpoints. Okay, so the collected information is presented in a readable format to the security team, allowing them to respond very quickly and proactively to protect their infrastructure. You then also have further integrations such as a mail server for mail alerts, log servers for all login of events, cloud services, and SIM integrations that will become more prominent in the foreseeable future, especially with the Curator environments, as Shannon mentioned. Okay. There's also other components that are contained in the solution, which we'll discuss, such as the Antimalware Module. So the Hive agent is an AI agent that uses the machine learning for decision making. The agent is installed on every endpoint and is responsible for monitoring the endpoint. It's responsible for collection of events, local analysis of behavior, and enforcement of policies. It works in both an online mode by sending events alerts in real time to the dashboard, and in an offline mode, which is used to be able to keep collecting event information. So in an offline mode, it'll continue to collect this information until the dashboard makes connection back to the internet and you're able to view your data again on the dashboard. Okay, and that's just for the alerts. Okay, so like I said, in the offline mode, the telemetry data is locally saved until the agent is able to check back in with the Hive brain and offload the data. The next thing that we look at is what relating to the agents is the NanoOS components. And this is a core component of the Hive agent that constitutes a strong differentiator compared to the other products and this is thanks to its access to the Ring 1 layer of the hypervisor. Okay, so the NanoOS is installed to that Ring 1 layer, and it's a hybrid type hypervisor agent that's able to virtualize the entire CPU and offer memory inspection. Okay, so the component acts as both a telemetry source, able to gather syscall information, generating process information, and operates in a protection mode by blocking and inhibiting a specific syscall from succeeding. Okay, so basically it just gives you a deeper level of control over those processes on your CPU and offers a deeper level of memory inspection than any other EDR would be able to. And this is because of its control at that hypervisor layer. It's not operating system dependent, which means that even if there were an attack on your operating system, all reporting would still report back to the dashboard. Okay, this also gives you low-level information, things like your credential harvesting, your key loggers, and etc. If there's anyone who comes into that PC and enables any of those type of exploits, it would be reported by ReaQta because of that NanoOS. Okay, the NanoOS is proprietary to ReaQta and is definitely a standout feature to communicate to your end users. Okay, so essentially how this is operated is that the agent virtualizes the entire CPU processes. It allows for deep discovery and insights into running processes, and without relying on the operating system of the endpoint, as I mentioned. Okay, so what's the benefits of this? It makes ReaQta a lot lighter on endpoint resources, and a lot of you would have heard this already, but we communicate that ReaQta's EDR agent makes use of less than 1% of CPU usage and less than 80 or an average of 80 megabytes of memory. And that's extremely low for an EDR, as many of you know. Okay. It also makes the endpoint less vulnerable for malware and purposefully seeks out an antivirus and EDR agents to disable them. So the agent cannot be seen by these types of malware, and essentially is putting the malware or hacker into an environment where the agent is invisible and tamper-free to the malware or attackers. And that's extremely valuable to have, especially in those cases where it's a live attack going on, because you would want full control of that endpoint if an attack is going on. You don't want your agent to be disabled. You know, if you were targeted and they knew exactly what type of systems you're running, what type of antiviruses your end users are running, they would know how to disable those, and they would be able to simply run a script for it or run certain editors for that on your operating systems. Okay, and this NanoOS actually prevents that from a ReaQta because it's not installed on the actual operating system. Okay, so the ReaQta NanoOS also requires the Intel VTX or AMD to be functioning, and it's deployed as a driver. It communicates with the main Hive driver through a custom callback mechanism, and the driver commands the on and off enabled or disabled status of the NanoOS and receives syscall feedback. Okay, this is currently an implementation for Windows. The Linux implementation doesn't warrant the need for a NanoOS. macOS restrictions, unfortunately, do not allow for the NanoOS to operate. Okay. We would then move on to the ReaQta Eon, which is the next generation anti-malware. Okay, so hope you're all laughing at my skull there on the screen. But yeah, the malware still has a very important place, as much as we say that it is very simplistic and limited. It's exactly why ReaQta has designed the next generation anti-malware. Okay, it's extremely valuable asset to determine a threat before you load it up into memory. So the anti-malware module is an option to all the packages of ReaQta. Eon is the anti-malware package, but with Pro and Enterprise, you would be able to take on the solution with the anti-malware module. Okay. The anti-malware module is an on-demand additional module that can be installed on the endpoints. and that can already have the ReaQta Hive agent. Okay. The anti-malware module is also enabled once you install the Hive agent, if you have it enabled from the time of install. Okay. It works as a pre-execution detection and protection system, which means that the file, regardless of the type, is scanned on the file system before it even gets used by leveraging the locally downloaded malware signatures. So it's not a scan that you have to run manually. It's persistent monitoring done by ReaQta on the endpoint to make sure that you are secure at all times. The next thing that we would move on to is a new feature called the Cyber Assistant. This is an automation tool that runs on the Hive brain and learns from the users on how alerts are closed. It then leverages this knowledge to recommend the user to close open incidents as well as positive and true positive, depending on how the user has closed similar incidents in the past. So Cyber Assistant can also automatically close false positives, create whitelist policies, and change the impact score of alerts. So just generally, this is to help the analyst out, making sure that there's as little alert noise as possible, and that's something that ReaQta excels on at a very high level, making sure that analysts are put first, making sure that all the alerts that you see are valuable. Okay, or rather, let's not say valuable because it would be a threat. Sure. Okay. So then we'd move on to the operating system support. For Windows, you would get Windows coverage. You get Linux coverage of CentOS Mint 19, Red Hat 7 and above. You get macOS, High Sierra to Big Sur, and the latest, which will come out. You also do get coverage of Windows 11, and you also get coverage of Android. Okay. So that's perfect. I'm hoping that you guys have questions which you can post to the chat box, but I'm going to jump into a console session just to go through a couple of things on the dashboard. Okay, just give me 1 second. So perfect, really appreciate it. Hoping that you guys are posting some questions for me at the end of this. Let's just start off with some of the dashboard details. Okay, so the homepage gives you a clear summary of the alerts that's registered during the months. During the last month, the alerts are divided into 3 categories, which is high, medium, and low. You can see that the triaging is done for you. So as soon as you get an alert, ReaQta has an AI system to determine the level of threat to your organization. So you can see that we have a couple that are populated here, some for ransomware. We have the anti-malware module running to show you that as well as one for initcrypt. Okay. The green arrow at the top, if you had a green arrow, shows you that you are doing better than your previous month. You have red arrows that show you that you are doing worse than last month. So we have seen a 15 alerts of high level that have increased from the previous month. Yeah, so we should probably get on that. That I show you, it's just for testing purposes. Okay. The homepage has the following functions. It allows you to review all alerts registered in last month. By clicking each one of the categories, you would be redirected to the alerts page, as you can see. So it does make it very quick to you to navigate the dashboard to alerts. So high, medium, and low. It allows you to respond to an alert by either closing the alert, so you close as malicious or benign, or you would be able to investigate the alert further. So you can see on the right, it gives you a breakdown, a summary of what the alert is about, what the key events are, which endpoints it's on, and the overview of the endpoints as well. Okay. On the left-hand side, it would show you a breakdown of your high, medium, and low-level alerts that are currently active. So anything that has not been closed or anything that is still running on the PC would be shown on the console as well. In the case of an MSSP installation, it also allows you to view the statistics of a specific customer and or of a group of customers. We'll then move on to the trends page. This offers an overview of the most significant statistics. So in terms of events, alerts observed across the infrastructure, this trends page, which is composed of several widgets, which you'll be able to see. There's a bit more now. And you would be able to you'll be able to deep dive pretty much from all of these widgets. So you'd be able to deep dive into each and every one of these and see from here. So if you ever need to do threat hunting from here, you would be able to do that as well. So this trends page allows you to review the current state of the security infrastructure at different timeframes. So you can see that you can adjust the timeframes from here. It allows you to identify which timeframes the alerts occurred based on severity. And this is from the timeline that you see on top. So you can filter down to high, medium, and low level threats in the last 30 days, etc. Okay, you're also able to review and improve the security posture of the infrastructure components, and these being at the network, application, endpoints, or at a user level. You're also able to report easily to anyone that needs this information at a glance. If you have an MSSP installation, you'll also have the option to generate the same view server-wide for specific customer infrastructure or specific customer group. And finally, you have the trend page details, which is every single detail that you see here. Like I said, it's deep diveable. It allows you to do very quick threat hunting as well. Okay. So bringing up alerts, etc. Okay. So just looking into these widgets, you have alerts by severity, which presents you with a graphical overview of the alerts in a graphical view per severity. You have endpoints, which shows you the total amount of registered endpoints and their specific status. Status can be either connected and online. As you can see on the top here, you'll be able to see that. You'd also then have your endpoints that trigger the most events. So the top 3 endpoints that trigger the most events in a certain period of time. Your trending key events on processes. So the top 3 processes that generate the most events. Your event distribution of trending endpoints. Endpoints that trigger the most alerts. Your endpoints that have the most active alert connections, and your policies and etc. Okay, from here we would then move on to the Mitre Attack. So moving on to the Mitre Attack framework that's utilized by ReaQta. And if you don't know, the main aim of the Mitre Attack page is to gather in one view all of the Mitre Attack events observed across the entire infrastructure. So the framework is based on real-world observations that's constantly updated with new and growing threats to give you a full and comprehensive understanding of threats in the environment of your organization. So the main elements of this page are the taxes column, which is on the left, as you can see. And the taxes column is the goal of the malware. So like I mentioned, ReacTa's philosophy is to go about understanding what the intentions of the malware are and how they are performing it. So how they are performing it relates to the techniques that they're using. So on the left, we have tactics, which you can deep dive into. And then on the right, you have techniques, which you can do threat hunting for. Okay, and that'll bring up all your details. So the page gives you a clear understanding of the techniques that are being used and belong to the Mitre Attack standard that's in the last period. So you'll be able to see that you can set your period here as well. It gives you an indication of the increase or decrease of identified techniques. It gives you detailed but clear description of each technique as well. So if you need to understand it, you would get full descriptions and you would be able to be informed as an analyst as well. Okay, you also get direct threat hunting capabilities, as I just showed you, to identify where the techniques were effective. And this information can be used to increase the overall security posture of the infrastructure by focusing on specific areas. We'll then move on to the alerts tab, and this is an automatic correlation of all events, processes, and activities associated with detected behavior. So ReacTa is constantly collecting events it's constantly collecting events. However, when it brings up an alert, it correlates all those events to a specific behavior. Okay, so the alerts allow analysts to easily understand the impact of the security incident, quickly respond to the situation, and apply the required protection to prevent the behavior from reoccurring. So the alerts page is divided into two main sections. The top section contains the complete archive of all incidents that ever happened, with the possibility to define the time frame to be displayed. It provides you with also a single view of the number of active and inactive alerts, divided into severity and how many of the endpoints are open, and the number and status of the archived alerts. The lower section provides a list of alerts with the information about the state, severity, description, and the endpoints where it was triggered. It also informs you about the events associated to the alert and how many events are part of that alert. Okay. So just to show you that, you can also see when we investigate an alert, you'll be able to see what triggered the alert and gives you a very high level overview that tells you exactly what is happening on that PC. You would be able to see the affected endpoint that it's running on. Your behavioral tree, which is very important. It shows you each and every step, which we'll go through in the next session. We then have the infrastructure artifacts. So if this process is running on any other PC in your environment or any other endpoints in your environment, you would be able to see that and respond to it appropriately. You then have the cloud analysis score, which is done by VirusTotal in partnership with ReaQta, and you'll be able to see that from here, as well as your policies, Mitre Attack, and your events, as I mentioned. On the endpoint side, this page represents you with presents you with your overview of monitored infrastructure of endpoints. So your when you're working with your endpoints, it's divided into two sections, as you can see. Above is where you would find the summary, widgets. And this provides you with aggregated information about the monitored infrastructure. From the left side of the widget, you have a clickable elements, as you can see here. All of these are clickable, where you would be able to filter these down. So online, offline, isolated, not isolated. And this gives you a detailed breakdown of the operating system as well. Okay, so it's you see on the right here, your operating system breakdown. The lower section represents you with a list of endpoints that are being monitored that are sending their data to the reactor brain, and each endpoint in the list is associated with high-level information, such as groups that they belong to, when they were registered, last time they were seen online, the type of endpoints, and so on. It's possible to filter this list using the left side of the widgets, so you can use this, or you would be able to use your advanced filters to narrow them down into Windows, Linux, Mac OS, Android, or things like servers, isolation, etc. So this page allows you to get a quick overview of your monitored infrastructure. It's intuitive and simple. Filters capabilities to identify endpoints and of interest. It gives you detailed access to all your system information, alerts, and events from a specific endpoint. It allows you access to the collection of forensic information for specific endpoints. It also allows you to monitor the online and offline status of an endpoint, a live response on a specific endpoint, and isolation of the endpoints as well. The endpoints page details, so we go into this. The endpoints page details gives you a high level information about the monitored endpoints, but you can see further information once you jump into the endpoints, such as the information like EDR agents, anti-malware agents, if it's enabled or not, operating version, your architecture, your NanoOS, if it's enabled or not, as well as things like your CPU. Okay, you also have your EDR information, such as your agent version, when the session was first started and when it has last ended, so when it was last live. You have things like the alerts that it's generated, the top 5 events that it's generated, whether it's been online in the past 24 hours or not, your forensic data, which I'll get to shortly, as well as all the events that it's provided in the past. If ever you quarantine files, you'll find them here. Any restored files will be pushed through, and you're also able to see applications. Okay. We then move on to policies. When we look at policies, there's 5 different types of policies created by the dashboard user and delivered to the agents. And through the policies, it's possible to configure some of the behaviors of the agent. And this is behaviors such as suppressing the generation of alerts, blocking or an alert, or blocking a specific behavior. So let's look into whitelisting and blacklisting. There's multiple ways of doing this. You would be able to do your whitelisting or blacklisting based on the app directory or binary hash. You would be able to do it on a behavior based, where you select the behavior. Then you would be able to choose binary hash or your app directory as well. Okay, so that's quite a cool feature to have that behavior based whitelisting and blacklisting. When we look at blacklisting, it's also possible for you to add a alert only function. So if you don't want the policy to kill the processes automatically, you would be able to select that and be alerted. Further to that, you also have protection policies. So through them, it's possible to switch the agent from an EDR mode to an EPP mode. So you would be able to see, you would be able to filter down to protection policies, and you would be able to enable the ones that you see necessary. Okay. So by activating one or more of these policies, it'll automatically block or kill a specific trigger. So if you have cross operations, ransomware behavior, or you have other things like your forged digital signature protections or your suspicious script protections, you would be able to put it into an EPP mode where it kills these specific behaviors. The 4th type is Destro. And this is custom detection strategies. It's Destro stands for detection strategies, and it offers the capability to create a custom detection based on the information gathered by the events collected from the agent. So Destro is based on the Luau scripting language and is executed at an endpoint level. So in order to whitelist a behavior that's triggered by a Destro policy, it's necessary to edit the policy script. Okay, so this is a feature that we see a lot of in SOAR solutions, where the custom playbooks are used to manage and respond to threats in a very specific and customized way. And for those of you who do not know, SOAR is security orchestration, automation, and response is a response tool. It's a very impressive feature to implement into your EDR stack to give you a very high level of control. ReaQta even provides you with responses to some threats that appear from an operating system level, like we've seen with the print nightmare hack. Okay, so ReaQta investigated this, and because it was all Microsoft Trust processes, it would not be picked up by any EDR or antivirus, but ReaQta put out an article that expressed the exact script to run, and it would be able to implement into Destro for automation based on a behavior. Okay, so very cool feature and function there. Okay, the new feature that's in beta is the compliance tab, which shows you things like the applications that match a certain criteria, such as your remote desktop controls and your file transfer controls, etc. And we'll look into that shortly. Okay. It shows you things like your secure access solution, remote admin, P2P file sharing, and what applications are actually installed on the endpoints just for reporting measures. As I mentioned, this is in beta phase at the moment and still being developed. Okay, from a reporting aspect, you're able to pull scheduled reporting or ad hoc reports. So for example, if we want to pull a custom report, we would be able to select our targets, our custom range, and then we would be able to create our report. Okay. Let's just go into one. You're able to edit this report as you choose. So if you want an executive summary of report, you remove any of the widgets that you require, and then you would be able to add in any that you see fit. Okay, very easy, very customizable for you to be able to use. Okay. And that's exactly where I would want to leave it off for this session. Next week, we would want to discuss analyzing the alerts. We would want to discuss things like a couple of alerts that ReaQta has responded to, specifically one that is recent, like the Hive Attack. We'll go through creating policies and the exact responses that you would have when you're looking at alerts. I'm hoping that you guys have some questions for me now. Perfect. Let me just open up the Q&A section.
Tristan, there is one question there. Please go ahead.
Perfect. How does ReaQta protect against process injection in order to prevent EDR bypass? So like I said, the way that they get around this is mainly with that NanoOS, because the agent is not relying on the actual operating system of the device. They wouldn't be able to have that process injection. Everything would be viewed from a overview level or from a hypervisor level. They wouldn't have access to the agents at all, or to bypass the EDR at all. Okay.
Then just one more question there, Tristan.
Yeah. Got it. On the API itself, what security is provided on the API itself? So ReaQta has all of the documentation of the API. They do secure the API through their on the application. You would be able to configure it, but I think that's a question that I would have to leave up to the ReaQta team. So I'll get back to you on that one. But if you do require any of the documentation, you would be able to find it on the dashboard, and we'd be able to send that through to you. Okay. Is there any other questions?
I think we can go ahead and close off, Tristan. But,
okay,
but perhaps before we do, guys, from my side, thank you very much for joining. It's good to have our partners on the line here. But just a reminder that these sessions are exclusive to CRS partners, and because we're showing off a lot of proprietary information with regards to our vendors, we unfortunately don't want to really turn anyone away from the lobby, but what I'm saying is feel free to share the invites with your teams, but we might just every now and then not let a certain person in, because we might not know exactly who it is. So if you could just let us know when you are sharing with your teams and who you're sharing with, so that we can actually have them registered before the time, so we let people in, if you know what I'm saying. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tristan, Dylan, and thank you all for joining us today for the first session. We will make sure that you are registered, automatically registered for the next session next week. Thank you so much for joining us and for registering. Take care, guys.
thanks everyone. Really appreciate your time.
Sorry, Tristan, we have one more question in the chat box.
Okay, I'm just seeing it. Just can you just read it out to me, Shanna?
Oh, sorry. It seems it popped up already. It was an old one. My apologies.
Good.
So thank you so much, everyone, for attending, and we will speak to you next week. Take care.